So here we are. So we're going to review from page 117, the spark of Mashiach. For those who like to follow inside, open your book, turn on your camera. Come on, be a good sport. Look how I'm bravely being. Isn't it more fun seeing me than just hearing my voice? Say yes. Okay. I'm being a good example. Thank you. Thank you for each face. It really helps a lot, that human interaction. Okay, so here we go. This is a review from last time. According to Kabbalah, every Jew has within him a spark of Mashiach. This spark is our drive and capacity to act as a redeeming force for ourselves, for those we know, and for everything in the world with which we come into contact. A redeeming force. Isn't that beautiful? We have within us this spark of Mashiach, which is a redeeming force. And this, you see footnote 15 there, I'll just tell you, it says Meor Einayim, the first Chernobyl Rebbe, who says this in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. So the Baal Shem Tov wanted us to know that we have a spark of Mashiach within. Okay. Just as the arrival of Mashiach depends on and is hastened by our anxiety over his delay, the actualization of the Mashiach spark within us requires first that we be anxious over the fact that it has not yet manifested itself. Let's go over that. Okay, first it's saying, let's decide what we're going to be anxious about. I could be anxious about what it says here, anxious that my Mashiach spark has not totally revealed itself. Why hasn't my Mashiach spark revealed itself? I could be anxious about how did I leave my cell phone on the toilet paper roll in the public bathroom, and will it be there when I get back? So we have to choose what we're going to. I never would have thought of this if I hadn't read it. If I wasn't empowered by the Baal Shem Tov and the Chernobyl Rebbe and Rabbi Yitzchak and each other, that we can choose what we're anxious about. If we're anxious, we can decide what to be. So let's be anxious about not only why Mashiach in general isn't here, but why my Mashiach spark has not actualized. Why have boring anxiety when we can have existential anxiety? Okay. The bottom paragraph on 117 for those latecomers. The deepest complex in our psyche is the frustration we feel over not being able to fully actualize our potential, to live up to what we are capable of becoming. Deep down, we know that our soul is part of God. Chelek Elokam Mima'al Mamash, chapter 2 of Tanya. It is said that without understanding that we have a godly soul, a piece of God within us, we couldn't understand the rest of Tanya. We have to know about this godly soul. And it's very interesting. I happen to have the source of learning this chapter, actually the first line of this chapter with Rabbi Effie Effenberg this week. And he was saying that there's many levels of interpreting this godly soul, but the lowest level is just somebody using it to enhance their ego, like, I have a godly soul. I don't know, I think that's funny, but everyone knows I have a strange sense of humor. So we don't want to use our godly soul just to enhance our ego. That would be a foolish move, but okay. So deep down, we know that our soul is part of God, and through it, we are capable of revealing Hashem's presence in the world. Now, this is our shlichus. It's good to have we all have our individual shlichus, but our shlichus as a group is to reveal Hashem's presence in the world. We are being empowered to do that, just learning this together, just speaking about it, that we have a shlichus, we have a mission to reveal Hashem's presence in the world. The fact that we are prevented from doing so troubles us. Next paragraph. This frustration is equivalent to anxiety over not being able to actualize our inner Mashiach spark. It is the Mashiach spark within us that gives rise to this existential anxiety. So again, I like this existential anxiety rather than my boring personal anxieties of, I could illustrate. But I've already been humbly given you the one many times about my poor cell phone nesting on the toilet paper roll of the public bathroom, wondering if I was ever going to come back and rescue it. Yeah, so that's boring anxiety. It's so petty. But instead, if I realize every time I'm anxious, I'm really anxious about where's Mashiach, and what about manifesting my spark of Mashiach? Please remember, that's the homework assignment for this week. If you're feeling anxiety about the past, present, or future, just remember, make a little note. We'll all do it together. You want this existential anxiety. The more we think about the purpose of life and the urgency of rectifying reality, the more intense this anxiety becomes. It's urgent. We need the geula. It's urgent. We all know that. As noted earlier, that this anxiety sensitizes us to the inner dimension of the Torah. So it's very good. This is why we're learning. Not everyone is drawn to Panemius Torah like all of us 33 people gathered here tonight. That's why we learn this stuff. We have this existential anxiety. We need to hear Panemius Torah. Although the study of the Torah's inner dimension serves to heighten our awareness of the urgent need for redemption, and this is a very important part, get ready to underline it, it also bolsters our belief and optimism that redemption is imminent. Okay, and this takes the edge off, as it says. Okay, so let's talk about optimism that redemption is imminent. I mean, this is something I lived in Crown Heights during those years when the Rebbe would speak about this all the time. Redemption is imminent. It's a psychological state. It's a healthy psychological state. On the one hand, we're anxious because we're seeing reality accurately, and we're seeing like we need the geula. Of our own lives that we're not being tormented and tortured. I'm laughing and crying at the same time. We know people that are. We all know for sure that we need the geula, right? Everyone agrees with me? Please nod your head. More cameras. I need more head nodding. Come on, don't be shy. Put on those cameras and nod. So on the one hand, we spoke about this. This is the paradox of life, of Jewish life. On the one hand, we realize the urgent need for redemption. On the other hand, we're optimistic that redemption is imminent. This is sanity. And it's sanity that has to change. It changes every moment because the conditions change every moment. It's not like I can be balanced now forever. I have to rebalance myself. The urgent need for redemption and optimism that redemption is imminent. We spoke about that Rabbi Yitzchak had said that we have to be sane and insane simultaneously. We have to see reality accurately in order to truly empathize with people who are suffering. But at the same time, we have to believe the geula. That's the idea that means imminent. Okay, so let's remember that. The revelation of the Mashiach spark does not happen all at once. Inasmuch as the divine soul embodies infinite layers of potential. So that's good to know that our Nefesh Elokis, our divine soul, has infinite layers. As soon as we actualize and exhaust one level of our divine potential, deeper, more powerful levels become accessible to us and challenge us to reveal our Mashiach spark at this deeper level of divine potential. So we're deep and we can get deeper. We can get deeper and deeper. I'm so glad that we can get deeper and deeper. Isn't that good? We don't have to be bored and stagnate at some level of deepness. We can get deeper and deeper. We can get infinitely deep. Our divine soul can be infinitely deep. I'm so relieved. I thought I would just be bored, reach some level. No, deeper and deeper. In other words, progressing on the path of spiritual growth is akin to climbing a spiral staircase. The ongoing dynamic of tension and fulfillment spurs us to realize our Mashiach spark, our ability to redeem the world, on continuously higher levels. So this Mashiach spark within us is continually can grow. It's such a beautiful idea, and we're being empowered. It's not just learning this. We're being empowered by the Baal Shem Tov, Rebbe, Rav Yitzchak. Yes, I like how Karen is holding up her book. That's the attitude. Okay. Okay, so here's a good sentence. The greater our anxiety, the more we are inspired to deepen our relationship with Hashem. Now, there is a good activity. Feeling, let's do that. That's when you hear that, don't you feel, yes, yes, deepen our relationship with God, delve into the secrets of Torah, and reveal our inner spark. So we're using anxiety. I mean, the book is called Transforming Darkness into Light. This chapter is called Positive Anxiety. But we can use our anxiety to become inspired to redeem the world. Okay, so the more we feel the urgency of redemption and our anxiety over its delays, the more we feel the urgency of redemption on the one hand, our anxiety over its delay intensifies. And there is the urgency for redemption, right? We all agree. Because the Torah is infinite in every understanding of life, it gives us, is also infinite, every answer to life's anomalies the Torah offers gives rise to deeper questions in its wake. Each level of understanding is replaced by a succeeding deeper level. So getting deeper and deeper is definitely in this chapter. When we like deep people, and we like them when they get deeper, the ongoing dynamic of tension and resolution is necessary for our continued spiritual growth. So that's good to know. Tension and resolution is what spurs on our spiritual growth. And that's why we're learning this book. With every answer, with every new comprehensive understanding of reality, now listen to this, comes a sense of satisfaction at having achieved it. This satisfaction naturally spawns complacency. The problem is solved, we have the answer. And there is nothing that feeds the ego more than the feeling that we possess all the answers, right? That's why new Baal Tshuvas can sometimes not be so popular with their old friends, because it's very, when someone thinks they possess all the answers, it's kind of can be tough, right? They're not so popular, those people. So complacency, which is similar to apathy, is not a good state to be in. It is therefore necessary to prevent this by asking a new, deeper question immediately upon finding the answer to the previous one. So again, it's always this tension and resolution that are necessary for spiritual growth, and we don't want to get stuck in complacency. Let's make a l'chaim to that. L'chaim, l'chaim. Yes. Okay. Now the next chapter, the next paragraph here is very interesting. Of course, the infinity of this process does not mean that it will never reach its conclusion. It is taught in Kabbalah and Hasidus that when a certain critical mass of the individual sparks of Mashiach is actualized, Mashiach himself will be revealed, and the ultimate final redemption will occur. So that we spoke about critical mass last week. I was very proud to share my high school physics knowledge that if you have to have a certain amount of uranium, the critical mass, for an atomic reaction to take place. If you don't have a certain mass, nothing will happen. You need and that's so this critical mass, which was a word in physics, also became a word in sociology, psychology. So it does, before I saw this, I somehow had some idea in the back of my mind, like before Mashiach comes, like everyone has to transform or something impossible. I don't know, it just seemed impossible. But now when I know it's only a critical mass, it seems like if you think of all the Mesiras Nefesh of all the Jewish people over all ages, plus our own growth and change since we started learning, yes, I could understand. It doesn't have to be everything or everyone. It's just a critical mass that we need. And we're very close, our sages tell us. Okay. Now, the last part, the last subchapter in this chapter is called, this is the Hachna'ah, Havdalah, and Hamtakah in Mashiach, submission, separation, and sweetening in Mashiach. Okay, since the actualization of the spark of Mashiach within each individual is a process of ongoing spiritual growth, it is logical to assume that this process exhibits the same threefold structure that typifies any spiritual growth process. Again, the Baal Shem Tov said these three stages are in any spiritual growth process. Let's see how it relates to what we just learned. Okay, the feeling of helplessness in the face of a world that is imperfect and incomplete, which translates into anxiety over the delay in the coming of Mashiach, is the submission stage, is the Hachna'ah stage. So what is Hachna'ah? This is feeling, where is that Mashiach? I feel anxiety, where is he? Can everyone please experience this? Let's experience this together. Okay, can everyone, anxiety, where is that Mashiach? Okay, now you've experienced Hachna'ah, and we may turn the page. Now, here's something very interesting, which I've learned in other contexts without really understanding it. Perhaps you'll feel the same. We're going to understand it now. The sages teach us, this is a quote from Gemara Sanhedrin 97a, which is the whole part that talks about Mashiach. The sages teach us that Mashiach will only come when he is not being thought about, Hisiach Hadas. Although this statement seems to imply that the best way to hasten the coming of Mashiach is to ignore the subject, this obviously cannot be the sages' intention, for they clearly declared that constant expectation of Mashiach era is a fundamental tenet of Jewish faith. This is the Rambam. This is what's the 12th of the 13 principles of Yiddishkeit, is constant expectation of Mashiach. Okay, so it can't be. So what is this sentence saying? What is this Hisiach Hadas? And in the words of Habakkuk, if he quote from the Navi, if he tarries, wait for him, for he will surely come without delay. Okay, rather. Okay, now we're going to get what this actually means. Aren't you excited? Rather, Mashiach will only come when he is not being thought about, means that Mashiach will come when he is least expected. Now we're going to understand, what does this mean? Mashiach will come when he's least expected. That is, we should await his imminent arrival, even though the world seems unprepared and unworthy of it. Important idea. The Nevi'im themselves have indicated that the Geula will come as a complete surprise. Now that is cool. Quote from Malachi, the Navi, the prophet, behold, I am sending my messenger and he will clear a path before me. Suddenly, in italics, suddenly the master whom you seek will come to his sanctuary. So Mashiach, so isn't this reassuring? Mashiach will come suddenly. It's so exciting. It could just be the next moment. So this is optimism. Optimism feels so much better. Don't you feel being inspired? I hope so. Let's hope so. Have another drink. Yes, okay. So there are many signs. So I was starting to feel much more cheerful after reading this. I have to admit, I hope it's having the same effect on everyone. I see there's a lot of comments in the chat. I hope they're not saying that no one has heard a word I've said and the volume is off. That would be so disappointing. I'm afraid to look. Okay. Oh, what book is this? Okay, people have answered. I'm glad other people are answering these important questions. This book, oh, somebody even, now I understood why the book was held up. Oh, life is becoming clear. It's such a good feeling. Okay. Okay, so we were saying there are many signs, middle of the page, 120, both those empirically evident and those foretold by the sages. By the way, this is new material. We did not do this. This is the first time. Besides, there are both those empirically evident and those foretold by the sages that the present era, means now, is ripe for the Geula. But in many ways, it appears to be far from ready. The situation of the world is such that no one would think Mashiach could come now. Yet we believe that reality has reached the critical mass of spirituality necessary for him to arrive, thanks to generations of prayer, Torah study, and Mesiras Nefesh. Like we're benefiting from the Mesiras Nefesh of all these last 3,500 years of Jewish learning, davening, doing mitzvahs. It's all building up. And plus, and just in our own lives, we have done a few mitzvahs, right? Baruch Hashem. So this is listen to this next one. This is the separation stage in the process of the revelation of Mashiach, in which we free ourselves of any preconceived notions regarding what must be for the redemption to come. So isn't this interesting for Havdalah, for separation? It's freeing ourselves of any preconceived notions, because we probably do have preconceived notions that everybody has to be nice or something. No, it could be now. It could be right now. Isn't that cool? Yes. Okay. This now, so so we have the Hachna'ah is feeling we need Mashiach now. The Havdalah is freeing ourselves of preconceived notions, and the sweetening stage is when our individual Mashiach spark shines and we are actively engaged in redeeming our particular corner of the world. In other words, we're inspired. We're inspired to want to redeem our corner of the world. And I remember the Rebbe saying it for Bringens when he would speak to the ladies. He would say, no one can illuminate our corner of the world as much as we can. That makes sense, doesn't it? Isn't that fun, illuminating our corner of the world? Get that illumination going. Why not? The world deserves a little illumination. Okay, now for those who like charts, the end of this chapter, the top of 121, puts what we just learned into a small chart. Again, starting at the bottom with Hachna'ah, submission, anxiety over Mashiach's delay, separation, Havdalah, belief in the imminent coming of Mashiach despite the apparent unreadiness of the world. The Rebbe really wanted us to do this. We have to, so we were a little slow 20-something years ago. Let's catch up now. And sweetening is the revelation of one's individual spark of Mashiach. Very cool. Why shouldn't it be revealed? Okay, this is very exciting. We are turning the page. We're starting chapter 11. We only have 2 more chapters. I have to ask Rabbi Yitzchak what he recommends we learn next, because this is really, I found this has really been transformative, as the title of the book says. Okay, so more. It's called Mashiach Path. Since it's now, let's focus on it. Do I have everyone's attention, please? Thank you. Since its inception in the 18th century, the Hasidic movement has been refocusing Jewish consciousness on redemption. That's very useful. If someone asks you, what has the Hasidic movement contributed? And we can say it has refocused Jewish consciousness on redemption. The Baal Shem Tov wrote in a letter to his brother-in-law, and this letter is in the beginning of Kesser Shem Tov, that on Rosh Hashanah in the year 1746, he experienced an ascent of the soul, Naliyah Neshama, into the spiritual worlds. When he reached the realm where the soul of Mashiach waits to descend into the world, he asked him, when will you arrive? Amosai Karasi Mar, famous song. When will you arrive? The soul of Mashiach responded, when your teachings are spread to the furthest reaches. Now this morning when I was teaching this, we had our all girls Sunday morning class, and we sang this together. It was really quite charming. I'm sorry you missed it. It was certainly a life-changing experience, singing everyone off key in their own little house together singing. But you can Google it. You can hear that sung it many Fabringans. When I Googled it, I got many of the Rebbe's Fabring. Amosai. It's a shame I can't sing. It's a flaw I haven't been able to overcome. But it's a great song. Amosai kara sima luka sheyafutsa minaseka futsa. So it's a big deal. When will you arrive? The Baal Shem Tov says to Mashiach, and Mashiach answers when your teachings are spread to the furthest reaches. The furthest reaches. I mean, that's me. I was at the furthest reaches. I have to, I don't like to brag, of course, but many of us probably, I mean, look at our lives. Tell me, were we at the furthest reaches or weren't we? We were, and look how it's just unbelievable that it could reach the furthest reaches about the Baal Shem Tov's teachings. In other words, through the Baal Shem Tov's teachings, the world can and should be prepared to receive the revelations that will accompany the coming of Mashiach. So this is what learning Hasidus does for us. Learning Hasidus helps us be prepared to receive the revelations that will accompany the coming of Mashiach. I'm telling you, I never, like, I feel this book has really reinfused me with Mashiach. Like, I hardly have those who know me. I don't speak about Mashiach much. It's not like, but this has infused me, and I'm expecting, finally, after all these years, I'm expecting Mashiach. Yes, and I hope we all are together. By gently lifting the veil, concealing the new revelations of the Torah that will accompany the Mashiach era, the Baal Shem Tov and his disciples began the subtle and gradual process of shifting the collective focus of the Jewish people from the travails of Gullus, of exile, to the anticipation of the Geula, the redemption. I mean, this is a mind-blowing sentence, that gently, just the focus of the Jewish people, think of our own focus. Instead of thinking about the travails, the suffering of the exile, the suffering of our own lives, and instead of spending time, because it is boring, at least our own personal suffering, other people's suffering, of course, we have to have a lot of compassion for, but our own suffering, instead of focusing on it, let's focus on anticipation of the redemption. This is what the Baal Shem Tov came to do. Isn't that a great idea? How did he think of it? I mean, it was a really horrible time when the Baal Shem Tov came. People were really suffering. The spiritual elite, and felt like totally separate from the common people. People were in despair, and even the concept of the idea that one can refocus. Who would have known? People have just thought, I'm suffering, this is what's happening. Who could know that you can refocus your consciousness? Finishing the sentence, preparing the world for the new order of consciousness that will be established upon the advent of Mashiach. Mashiach consciousness, which we're changing our consciousness. This is transforming darkness into light. What are we filling our consciousness with? We have a choice. Isn't that helpful to know? Yes. Okay, now we have very small writing at the bottom of the page. When someone would come to join the circle of the Baal Shem Tov, the Baal Shem Tov would ask him, "What do you remember?" This penetrating question would awaken the new disciple's unconscious and bring up what lay hidden in the recesses of his psyche to his conscious mind. This included all the unresolved issues he had repressed throughout his lifetime, remnants of previous lifetimes, and particularly the life of the soul before its descent from its abode in heaven into the physical body. Now that is cool. See, the Baal Shem Tov wasn't your average guy. He asks you what you remember, and you remember all your, what were those things? Those that would awaken the new disciples' unconscious. This included the unresolved issues that we've repressed throughout our lifetime. We'd have a chance to resolve them with the Baal Shem Tov. That sounds very healing. Remnants of previous lifetimes, let's heal those also. And the life of our soul, it's going to continue. The life of our soul before its descent from its abode in heaven into the physical body. Okay, so yes, people are, Yes, yes. I like everyone's fascinating comments. Okay, so oh, I have footnote 2 circled for those who want to, it's short, but it's page 175 if you want to fold over the page in your book there. This motif is preeminent in the writings of the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, Rabbi Shner Zalman of Liadi. Many of his discourses begin with the theme of remembering the descent of one's soul from its primordial state of standing in Hashem's presence, about to enter a physical body, detached by its very nature from divine consciousness below. This is true. Many of the Maimorim in both Torah Or and Likutei Torah by the Alter Rebbe do begin with remembering the soul's descent into the body. I mean, this is a theme in Hasidus. This is a theme to remember, to go back to the place, to remember the soul as it was before it descended into a body. In recalling the soul's prehistory, his life before birth, the disciple would first remember his soul's origin in the higher worlds. So that's a good place to start from, our soul's origin in the higher worlds. The first dawning of the soul's consciousness was its overwhelming awareness of Hashem's presence. So this is where our soul comes from. It comes from a place where it had an overwhelming awareness of Hashem's presence. That's why we want that. That's why, even when I talk about Hashem's presence, when I just say those words, I feel much better because we are in Hashem's presence right now. It's so good to remember. Absorbed in this sublime bliss, the soul aspired to do no more than remain in it. In other words, before our soul came into the body, it was just hanging out there in sublime bliss and wanted to remain in it. Footnote 3. In the words of the sages, oh no, we're wrong place. Footnote 3, that Nevi'im referred to this state of absolute presence when they swore by Hashem before whom I stood. So the Nevi'im felt this. The Nevi'im felt this being in Hashem's presence. When we talk about it, it certainly helps me feel it but we should, it seems like a good meditation, certainly before davening and while davening, that we're in Hashem's presence. I think we have to make a l'chaim to that. L'chaim, l'chaim, thank you, those brave enough to have their cameras on. Come on, it really helps. Come on, come on. No one, you have to believe me. See, seeing the people gives me that like human kind of experience. I like it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Absorb, okay. When our soul remembers this state after having descended into the body, the soul experiences a deep, sublime sense of spiritual submission to Hashem, Hachna'ah, a desire to be embraced in the bosom of Hashem the way an infant longs for its mother's bosom. In other words, the word dvekus is like davek, glue. It's our soul wanting to glue being dvekus with Hashem, being one with Hashem. Right? The soul was like that. Our soul was experiencing that before its descent, and it wants to do that now. And the Alter Rebbe does say in Tanya that even us aspiring Beinanim, can experience this in davening. Maybe not, the whole davening is a very high level to experience dvekus for all of davening, but at least for moments, even for one moment, to know that it's in the ability of the average person, the Beinanim, us, to experience this. And our soul wants it, it deserves it. So thinking about it, davening for it makes it more likely. Right. When the time came for the soul to enter the body, it heard God commanded to descend into this world to perform his mission, his shlichus, and fulfill its unique purpose in life. So again, we have a general shlichus. We all have a general shlichus of revealing Hashem in this world. And we have our unique shlichus. Each of us in our corner of the world has a unique shlichus. On the one hand, the challenge excited it, our soul. On the other hand, it was afraid to leave Hashem's protective presence. You know, when I read this, on the one hand, it's challenged, excited us. On the other hand, it was afraid to leave Hashem's protective presence. I thought of a video I saw a couple of weeks ago about the shlichus of Gershon Mendel Gorelik Olav Shalom and his wife Basi, like in the late 50s. They were sent to be shluchim in Italy, where there was no Jewish structure whatsoever. If you saw this video, it was very, very moving. It's on a few different places, but it was very moving, and it was about in the 50s when they showed scenes of the Rebbe's Fabringen and the unity of the Hasidim and the energy. So that was Hashem's protective embrace. On the other hand, they were very excited about their shlichus into the wild unknown, and so this is the soul coming down into the body. On the one hand, it's exciting. On the other hand, it's scary, right? We have to have the balance. Okay, so again, I'll read that again. On the one hand, the challenge excites our soul. On the other hand, it's afraid to leave Hashem's protective presence. But our soul accepted its task on earth of separating good from evil and dedicated itself to strengthen the dominion of good over evil. So that's our soul coming down. When the soul remembers the divine decree to descend into this world in order to perform its mission, its shlichus, this arouses in it a sense of responsibility to achieve its purpose, always differentiating between its true goal and false illusions, separating good from evil. Separating good, this is a shlichus, this is our mission, revealing godliness in the world, separating good from evil. It's like it can be very subtle. You know, we spoke about, we're going to actually get up to those pages in the book, but the three levels of evil, you know, just to review, because, you know, it's a Jewish custom, as we said in the beginning. So the one level of evil is the Torah says not to do something and we want to do it. Has anyone ever had that experience? I don't like that feeling. Okay, that's one level. Another level is psychological complexes that keep us from fulfilling our shlichus. We all know about those. And the third level is whatever embitters my life. That's why, you know, transforming darkness into light is transforming bitterness into sweetness. The things that embitter our life is what gave us the motivation for those who became frum to become frum, to grow, to want spiritual growth, to not stagnate. It's unbelievable. Those very things. And if they're still embittering our life, it means we have more fuel. We have more fuel to grow further. We can use those things. That's what we're learning about in this wonderful book. Okay, so so when the soul remembers, I'll read that last sentence one more time. When the soul remembers the divine decree to descend into this world in order to perform its mission, this arouses in it a sense of responsibility to achieve its purpose, always differentiating between its true goal and false illusion, separating good from evil, whatever level of evil we're working on. Finally, bottom paragraph on page 124. Let me just see. Oh, someone asked, what should a person do if they feel they failed in their mission or missions? It starts now. All of the past is hashgacha pratis. It was meant to be. It was meant to be. It's in this moment. So we're starting fresh. We're starting fresh in our moment, this mission, and this moment. This moment, our mission starts. And that's all we have free choice. And everything in the past, by definition, is hashgacha pratis. I mean, it's a tremendous relief. It was part of the divine plan, all of those decisions we made. But now, in the little teeny tiny now, we have a choice. Baruch Hashem, let's make a l'chaim to the right choice. Okay, so this is going to be the last paragraph we're going to do tonight. Finally, the soul descended into this lowest world and was vested in a physical body. Just before birth, it was administered an oath, be righteous and do not be wicked. This is how the Tanya begins. This is chapter 1 of the Tanya. This oath filled it with power and spiritual fortitude, enabling it to withstand the tests of life and successfully fulfill its mission. We were empowered. It helps to know we were empowered to make the right decisions, and we're reinstating, we're re-inspiring, we're re-empowering each other. When it remembers the oath, it draws upon the divine power channeled through it to sweeten reality. Draw upon the divine power, the empowerment. We are empowered. We are being empowered. We're being empowered by the Baal Shem Tov. We're being empowered by the Rebbe. We're being empowered by Rav Yitzchak. We're being empowered by each other to sweeten reality. Yes, being sweet is a good way to. Just I'm laughing and crying. Being sweet sweetens reality. It's tough sometimes. Listen, it's a challenge. One has to, there's a lot of stuff. So, Thursday evening, Rav Yitzchak Verbrang in English. It was over the telephone. We didn't get to see him, but for those who got to hear it, and it's online at inner.org, you can hear him. It was the yurtzeit of Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhinsk, and that was connected with this wonderful Verbringen. But since we didn't get to see him and we want to see him, we need to send him another get well picture, right? So I'm closing the chat, expanding the screen. Come on, everyone wants to be in the get well picture for the Rav, right? Of course, with that get well smile. Come on, a few more people, don't be shy. Yes, more, come on. All right, I don't want to beg. All right, here we go. We're gonna look by giving another person a chance to be in the get well picture. So the Rav should have a refuah shalema, go from strength to strength. We want to see him. L'chaim, l'chaim. 1, 2, 3. Yes, great, thank you. All right, so I think this is probably a good place to stop for this week. Thank you all.